Starting. It's connecting. It's connecting. We're not dropping frames, at least so far. Hopefully the recording is actually working too. All right. Well, hello everybody. Welcome to WordCast number 47. I may have to say that again because I'm not seeing whether or not it's live. Yeah, okay, it's live now. All right, yes, hello everybody. Welcome to WordCast number 47. Lots of big news. It was actually a surprisingly big week considering CES was over pretty recently, so I was actually surprised by that. A lot of stuff to go over from AMD Restructuring, Intel, and Samsung both releasing new SSDs. Finally, the Ryzen Mobile 2700U APU is out, so that's pretty exciting, as well as a lot of other stuff. Daniel's currently sick, so if he coughs, we apologize ahead of time. Calvin's going to be actually taking over for him after he gets through a few topics here, because his voice is a little hoarse and stuff too. So just be ready for Calvin to jump in. Yeah. Oh, and hi, Jose Alexander, for saying first one. Cool. And Joe is here on time this time. This is great. A lot of times he ends up having to be late. So, sweet, Joe. It's nice to see you, man.
I mean, technically we were late.
But a lot of times he's like here at like 10 or something because I think he's been busy. But or maybe I'm remembering wrong. I'm sorry if I'm remembering wrong, Joe. Don't mean to offend. But nice to see you here again. So, anyway, let's jump straight into it. You know everything about this.
Yes.
So, go ahead.
So the first topic is going to be Nintendo Labo. So Nintendo kind of teased a big announcement. They didn't really say anything other than it was a new way to play, and it was for kids and kids at heart. That led to a lot of speculation. Also, a lot of people somehow thinking it was going to be Smash Bros. I don't know how they got that.
Yeah, that wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Like that, there's no hinting at that realistically.
Yeah. Well, it turns out it's cardboard.
Yeah, I know. So Nintendo's selling cardboard now, guys. So if you need a large supply of cardboard, wait, is that what it is?
Yeah, man. Technically, true. It's cardboard.
Yeah, so if you need a large supply of cardboard,
what they're gonna be doing is essentially it's making accessories for the Nintendo Switch out of cardboard. So you're gonna be looking at a lot of different things for a variety of different types of games. So you're looking at like these like RC car bug things that can move forward and turn based on the vibrations of the Joy-Cons. You're looking at a piano, a house. I don't know what the house is for. A fishing rod, a steering wheel, and a pedal, which is going to be really cool for games like Mario Kart.
There's a whole bunch of unique stuff and more that can come out later.
Yes, a lot more.
Now, is this open source? Like
it's on a Nintendo platform. It can't be.
Okay, but what? Actually, not open source. But what I mean is, can other people make their own stuff? Is it a maker community that you could do like higher level stuff, or is it specifically? I mean, I know it's aimed at kids, but is it specifically usable for kids?
Developers can make games and package content with it,
but they can they make their own cardboard setups? Is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Okay. Okay, and they can. Okay, that's what I was asking. I know. I'm talking
it's cardboard. Nintendo can't patent that.
Right. Okay, I get that, but I mean any APIs that they're using that are custom for it.
There's no APIs. It's cardboard.
Not you know what I mean.
So there are certain times where they do use the camera that is on the bottom of the, I think it's the right Joy-Con.
Okay.
The infrared camera to do certain things. Okay. With the piano, for example. So each of the keys has reflective tape. And it uses the camera on the bottom of it to detect when the key is pressed down and how fast it's pressed down.
Right, yeah, I remember seeing that. It's pretty cool.
You can actually do keystrokes and speed matters. Now, any developer making a Switch game can use the camera API, so presumably anyone could do this.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It is actually pretty cool. I wanted to throw out, we know this isn't a PC topic, and that's usually what we cover here. Like I said, he's covering some topics that he wanted to cover in specific first.
Regularly cover.
We cover all. Stuff, we usually start with PC, is what I'm saying. So just so they know what the reordering is for.
Yeah, and then the coolest thing they showed off was a robot. Like a literal robot suit. You have a backpack, you have a visor, you have arms and feet. This is actually a revival of something that was worked on a long time ago. I think it was called like Project Super Robot or something like that. That was not continued after the head of Nintendo passed away.
Yeah, which was...
because that was his project.
Yeah.
And this was kind of their revival of that by bringing it to the modern platform by using... I think it uses like 3 or 4 Joy-Cons, though. Because you have at least one in the foot. I think maybe one in each foot. One on the visor.
Yeah.
And then one in the backpack, because the way that it works is it can detect the backpack.
And you can only have 4 Joy-Cons connected to a Switch at a time, as far as we know,
believe
correct?
so.
Okay.
They might open that up to more for this.
Yeah, it would just depend on what bands are being used and stuff, if they even can. Okay.
So the backpack has strings in it, and they move levers. And the way that this all works is that when your arms move, for example, they pull on. They have strings going all the way along the arm to the backpack. They move the levers, and that's what tells the Joy-Con that's in the back, using its motion sensor or using its infrared camera, where the levers are, and that's how it knows when you're punching, for example.
Right.
It can tell that the string moved up.
I mean, we all knew also the Joy-Cons are really impressive.
Yeah, they're
very
versatile
there's a
technology.
reason that they're as expensive as they are, and that they've had stuff that we didn't really know what was for until now.
Yeah. This really to me seemed like something Nintendo probably wanted to do at the launch, but they wanted to not let the Switch get too much of a focus on like, oh, this is just a kid's system.
Right.
If they would have launched it with this would have done very well. But then people would have just been like, see, it's a kid's system.
Exactly, yeah.
Now they have
So now
Zelda, Mario,
It's
Dark Souls is
it's a
coming
really
out,
good
Skyrim.
it's a really good release schedule for them.
Yeah.
Is they don't want to target because you don't want to limit your target demographic. You want to add to that later, and that's a much better way of doing that.
Yeah. And I think that this is probably because like Nintendo presumably is going to follow the same plan every year of a big title at the beginning of the year, a big title at the end, and a lot of stuff in the middle.
Yeah.
Which
I kind of like.
This is going to be their big beginning of the year content.
Yeah.
And then who knows what we'll get at the end of the year. I'm personally hoping for Pokemon, but we'll see. There's rumors that was delayed till 2019.
Yeah. Which hopefully not. Yeah. But wouldn't surprise me at the same time, So yeah. I'm excited for it. I won't be getting it, I don't think myself, but you will. So maybe you can do a video on the channel about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'd love to see that. So. That would be
also,
awesome.
If any of you have Best Buy's Gamer Club Unlocked membership and you want to get this for yourself or for a family member or kid, the Gamers Club Unlocked membership does give you the 20% off these kits.
Which is
so if you buy both kits, you get $30 off, which is the cost of the membership, which pays for itself.
Exactly.
At the very least, I'm going to get the variety pack, which is normally $70. That comes with the piano, a couple of the RC cars and stuff. That way I can just mess with it.
I like it.
Supposedly the piano takes about 2 hours to build.
Which is significant, but also that's probably judging by a kid being helped by an adult, but the kid...
No, this was...
Or was this somebody...
There was like 5 different people in the press.
I guess an adult's supposed to make it and kind of show the kid what's happening and that... Well...
It has instructions on the Switch. So you spend $70, you get 2 RC cars, a fishing rod, a house, a motorbike, and a piano, along with physical copy of the game to go along with this.
Right.
And so when you first launch it, it shows you how to make it, then it shows you how it works, and then it lets you play with it.
I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I like it.
But no, the people there at the press event, one of them got to build the piano, and they said it took them about 2 hours to build.
Okay.
Following the instructions, trying to do it all right, so... Because it's like, you're building the piano, all of the keys. There's also 4 different knobs you can put in, presumably to do altered sound.
Right.
And so you build out all of those. Everything just comes flat-packed, so...
It's interesting. Yeah. It's not something like I'm super excited about, but I still think it's very cool.
Yeah, you're not fun.
Yeah, I'm not fun. So we might have some content on here on our channel about it, though. Probably at least some kind of write-up.
Yeah.
But hopefully a video. I'd love if you did a video on that. Okay, so...
Oh, last thing.
Okay.
It releases April 20th for $69. Okay.
It actually does, isn't that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so funny.
Yep.
That has to be on purpose. Okay. It can't not be. Okay, so anyway, DJI releasing some interesting stuff.
Yes, a new drone. So they've been slowly rounding out so that they cover every price point in the market for drones. They came out with the Mavic Pro, which was $1,100, and then eventually they came out with the Spark for $500. Now they have their newest drone, the Mavic Air, for $800. This does sit right in the middle of those 2 price points, and it's a drone that's right in the middle. So ultimately what we're looking at, it's It's got the same sensor as the Mavic Pro, which means it can do 4K at up to 30 FPS, or 1080p at 120 FPS. It can do 12 megapixel stills with HDR.
Excuse you.
Flight time is a maximum of only 21 minutes. However, it does have
that's actually pretty
swappable
good.
batteries.
Still, though, that's pretty good for a drone. A lot of drones only get a half hour or so. So for a smaller, more budget-oriented drone, it's really not bad. That's like 21 minutes. People think that doesn't seem like much, but I had it was a quadcopter, not a drone. It was just for fun, but it had like a 2-minute flight time, and that felt significant. Time goes by slower when you're flying something
now,
in a way,
though,
so.
We'll talk about something else. So they have a new system for Wi-Fi transmission. Built into the legs of this drone is bigger antennas, so you have more range. So if you're taking advantage of that range, 21 minutes ends up being 15 minutes, and also 15 minutes ends up being a very small amount of time.
Yeah, well, I mean, you could even be pushing down to like 10, including recording and all that other stuff at it. So yeah, I get that, but
keep in mind the way that all drone makers do their battery testing is really close to water where there's no wind resistance.
Right, exactly. Yes.
So it also has 8 gigs of internal storage along with the micro SD card slot that is standard for their recording. It has upgraded anti-collision algorithm. So currently with their drones,
so I wanted to give a little bit of a reference point here though. The Phantom 3, which is currently going the DJI Phantom 3 Pro. Let me check Amazon here. Amazon's being slow for whatever reason. So let me see if I can find the Pro to see what the price of it is.
I don't think they sell it anymore. They don't make it anymore.
Okay. Well, anyway, let's just say $600 because the standard is listed for $550. It's a 23-minute max flight time. So when it's doing more stuff, you're looking at like 15. So this really is not a bad flight time.
No.
I want to emphasize that for people. That's not lower than things other than like the DJI Inspire, which I think gets like 50 minutes of flight time.
The other thing that they announced was that there's an updated version of the Mavic Pro. That one gets almost 40 minutes now.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. So the current way that, let's say with the Mavic Pro, the anti-collision system worked is if it was flying towards something and let's say it got close to a tree, it would just stop.
Yes.
The way that the new system works is that it will, because if you already have, like, let's say you have a planned flight path that's involving like it curving around curving.
Yeah.
If it notices a tree in its path, it'll try and incorporate that so it gets as smooth of a path as possible, while still going around it rather than just
smarter
stopping
rather
and
than
around.
Yes. So which especially if you're filming footage that you need good footage of, that could potentially save your footage from having to do another flight.
Yeah.
And flights can take significant amounts of time.
If you're doing 15-minute flights, then that saves you from the whole battery usage.
Exactly. Yeah. So like say you only have one battery, and if you mess this up the first time, you got to go back home, recharge, and come back.
That being said, if you're doing that type of thing,
you should have multiple batteries, yes. But if you don't, if you're doing it on a budget as a start, like this is like, I saved up money for a year to buy this drone or whatever. So it's pretty impressive, honestly.
And then, let me pull this up again. So yeah, with the new Wi-Fi transmission system, at up to 4 kilometers away, you can have a 720p live view.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And it includes the remote, unlike the Spark. The Spark, you have to buy the Fly More bundle to get the remote. Now, that being said, they do have a Fly More bundle for the Mavic Air. It includes, let me pull up the full list.
Lots of extra rotors.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Or blades, I should say.
That's pretty much the standard for the Fly Mores.
Good, because those break.
Yeah.
I've had those break.
So it comes with the system, the remote control, 3 batteries if you buy the Fly More bundle, 6 pairs of propellers, propeller guards.
6 versus 4 on the standard. I just want to mention that.
The cables. The Mavic Air uses USB-C.
Good.
To go from its 8 gigabytes of internal storage to a computer.
Good. USB-C, all the things.
Yeah. So it comes with a lot of stuff. You get a battery charging hub, battery to power bank adapter, so you can actually use USB power banks to charge them.
Yeah.
A bag for it and everything. So.
It's
and that ends up being $1,000, which is normal to be about $200 more.
Which, I mean, $1,000 for a good drone with 4K footage, not bad.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty impressive.
Eventually, I want to get a drone. Unless DJI comes out with another drone in the next few months,
Yeah.
this would probably be the one I want to get.
Yeah, and I think that's... I wish you luck in getting that.
Yeah.
I mean, that could be good for some really interesting content, too, if we can use it for the channel, or both our channels. So, yeah, that's exciting. So BMW is doing something interesting here.
Yeah, I want to shit on BMW for a few minutes.
Yeah, let's just kind of trash BMW. And no, we're not going to talk about all their other problems like reliability and stuff. No, this is something different.
So, currently, they charge a $300 one-time fee if you want CarPlay when you're buying or leasing your car.
Now, I wanted to keep people informed that $300 one-time fee is more than likely, I haven't actually checked specifics on a whole bunch of models or anything, included in like a tech package.
Yeah.
Right? So you're looking, you have to get the tech package of like $1,500, and $300 of that is going towards the Apple CarPlay usage. So that actually makes this even worse, in my opinion, because you're paying like, this tech package includes this thing, so it kind of helps cover up the cost of paying for it. And a $300 one-time fee, like, we can understand that, right?
Yeah, because there's actual cost. You have to get chips from Apple specifically to be able to do this.
You have to pay royalties.
You just buy that chip.
Well, don't you have to pay royalties for the software too?
The software's...
Or is it all, it's like bundled, so to speak? Oh, okay.
It's just like with Android Auto, how it's
okay,
just running from the phone.
I've never used CarPlay, so.
Now, BMW is the only company that has wireless CarPlay.
Right now. There's more that are planning to implement it.
Yeah.
And is this is specific for the wireless, or is this for all?
No, this is for all. So
all CarPlay.
The change that they're making is instead of charging a $300 one-time fee...
Which, again, is usually masked by other packages and stuff.
You get the first year for free, and then after that, it's $80 a year forever.
Yeah, it's not $80 a year until you reach the $300, or 4 years until you're over that. No, it's indefinite, and that's not cool. I mean, that bugs me to the point because there's no continued cost.
Yeah,
it's CarPlay. Apple updates it.
Yes.
Apple updates your phone. It's not like BMW's having to push OTA stuff to the car. They're not.
It's just screen mirroring.
It's just screen mirroring. The only thing that the BMW might have to do is if there's some major security issue and they have to go patch them manually through an OTA update. And that is something that a lot of cars, modern cars, do OTA updates anyway.
Yeah.
And that's not something you pay for. You just get your OTA updates.
Yeah.
Cellular network, boom.
What they're trying to say is the justification for this is that for the majority of their lease customers who do 3-4 year leases, this will be cheaper because you get the first year free, so 3 years ends up being the cost of 2, so 180.
Right.
4 years is 240. But all those leased cars get sold as used after that, and this way they can keep monetizing them
continuously,
forever.
Which is it's not cool.
I will be surprised if Apple does not step in.
They should. The thing is, BMW is basically going, people can afford our cars, they can afford this. Let's get more money from them.
Yeah.
Because it's just a scam.
You yearly, essentially a subscription fee for a service Apple provides.
Not only that, I mean, to sum it up to people really simply, if you're not a tech nerd, by any means at all, BMW is charging you money for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
Literally.
Yeah.
That's unacceptable. That's unacceptable. And how much do you want to bet that you still have to get a tech package to even get the CarPlay option in the car?
You would need the screen that's compatible with it, so possibly.
Yeah, so you probably still have to buy some kind of package to upgrade to the ability to do this.
Yeah. Which,
there's a cost to that. There's not a cost to keeping it running. This isn't cool at all, and frustrating. It's just allowing them to pull money in from cars. And when you're selling a massive amount of cars, that ends up being a significant amount of money.
Yeah.
And it's significant to people that are buying cars. And especially if you want to buy a used, I want to go buy, a 2012 BMW. Those don't have it. But I'm saying, say, 8 years from now or whatever, 6 years from now, except I have to pay another $80 a year on top of that. Which, for a lot of people, that's a month of gas.
Mm-hmm.
That is actually significant, Yeah. So, I don't know. I'm not okay with this. And they're just figuring people can afford it and they want more money. Yeah. And it's the same reason this isn't a car show, but it's the same reason that, BMW, they have good engineering. They do make, actually, in my opinion, cool-looking, fast, interesting cars that are really fun to drive and have cool interiors. They also break down a lot, charge you way more than I think they should for parts. I understand import costs, but I mean a lot of parts even for like Porsches, and I've owned a Porsche, are cheaper than parts for BMW. So I mean I know this firsthand. It's ridiculous. And then now doing things like this, it's like how many ways can we monetize to drag more money in from people?
Yeah.
And it's like it's not.
They're going to turn the auto industry into the games industry.
Yeah, and yeah. How about this? Yeah, so this new BMW subscription service, this is BMW Star Wars. Or BMW Battlefront. That'd be a better way to put it.
Yeah. No, soon we're going to have loot boxes to see if you get Android Auto or CarPlay in your car. And you have to pay to keep re-rolling.
Yep. Joe put it a good way here. He's like, BMW is charging you money to enable a feature if you already have the chip in the car. Mm-hmm. It's like, yeah, you already have your chip, but we're going to charge you money to enable it.
Yeah.
And like, you know, I can understand if it was a development end on BMW's part, like where Tesla has hardware for full autonomous driving, right? And you pay for that hardware. But you're going to have to pay to unlock it at different levels. To unlock the hardware and unlock the features, because there's continuous cost and development put into that. There's cost in terms of servers that have to run have to store the data that they're pushing over the air to these. There's cellular data costs. There's costs of development from developers. I mean, they hired Jim Keller to build custom chips for them. There's costs to that. BMW doesn't have a cost here.
Also with Tesla, if you buy the autopilot, just having the hardware in your car does get you some benefit, whether or not you pay for autopilot.
Yes, exactly, yeah.
Which is why all of their cars now include autopilot hardware.
Yep.
There is no actual paying more for the hardware.
Somebody over in Twitch chat made a point. 8lock something said Apple followers are a cult. They'll pay it.
Yeah, Apple's not making the money, so I think they'll have a problem with it.
Yeah, actually, that is it. Apple might have a problem with it. Apple followers will definitely pay it, though, because they go, oh, high-tech stuff, got to pay money for that.
A lot of car companies don't even charge for it.
Yeah, oh, no, I know.
They see CarPlay as a selling point, not as a way to make an extra buck. It's like, this is how we get the car to sell anyway.
Exactly. It's like, we include this thing for free. Mm-hmm. I mean, and a lot of people don't know, a lot of cars actually do have really low profit margins, especially after incentives, discounts, future oil changes and stuff like that. You know, cars don't have huge profit margins considering the value of a car. So I mean, I understand car companies wanting to increase revenue, but don't sneak in ways to increase that. The idea is give more incentives to sell more. That's how you increase revenue. Yep. You sell more cars. You go, hey, let's lower the price of our car a little bit. Let's figure out how to manufacture this for cheaper. Let's figure out how to make something safer so people are willing to pay a little more money for it. Let's give them free, clear bras on the front of the car, or free window tinting or something like that, right? As well as like oil changes and stuff like that are included. That's how you incentivize people to buy a car. You don't just change nothing but charge more for literally nothing. Yeah. And how much do you want to bet that BMW doesn't have to pay that much money to get the chips from Apple?
Oh, no doubt.
Like, they're not $300 they're not even paying. Probably that was already overpriced because they buy in bulk, I'm sure. It's like, oh, we need 100,000 units for the next 100,000 cars that roll off the production line. And Apple's like, oh, yeah, $10 a unit. Yeah. So, and Apple wants this in cars. Yeah. Because it incentivizes, especially if CarPlay is better than Android Auto, which, I mean, I don't know if it is, that's arguable, but I'm saying if it were, the more incentive Apple has out there for people to buy iPhones, the better for them financially. If you go, oh, I'm going to buy a new car, well, I'm going to switch to iPhone first because all the cars have CarPlay, for example, and the car I'm looking at has CarPlay, so I can use that, cool, right? And so Apple probably practically gives these chips away. Now, I don't have insider information on that, but to them, I mean, it's something that's going to help bring in money for them. Yeah. So, frustrates me. Okay, so let's see. What do we have? Oh, yeah, and BMW still doesn't support Android Auto. Yeah. Yeah, which is like, okay, what are they going to charge for that? It's frustrating, because then they have to get custom hardware for that. In terms of, like, from Google. Yeah, it's
literally just screen mirroring.
Yeah,
literally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, isn't Apple CarPlay, too?
Yeah, but they have to have their Apple-specific hardware because Apple's security.
And I know there are ways in some of the cars to hook up, like, how much gas mileage you're getting and fuel and stuff like that to Android Auto and I believe to Apple CarPlay as well. And I can understand potential like financial costs to that, but it's by no means it's not a continued thing. And those sensors are already feeding to your dashboard and your on-screen display stuff. It's just now it's feeding it, to the phone. And honestly, from what I've heard, it's not very good. Like, people want to be able to see, like, how much gas do I have left in my car while it's turned off? So, oh, I need to leave for work 10 minutes early because I got to get gas today. Yeah. And that'd be a, cool feature to have. So
yeah, I feel like you're probably, if you're wanting any car data, better off buying, like, one of the automatic brand readers that go into the diagnostic slot that are
OBD. Yeah. OBD readers are pretty awesome. Yeah. I used to have a Bluetooth one, and it records, literally every output the car can.
Yeah, there's some that are IoT connected though that come with like a 3G service.
Yeah, there are. Yeah. Well, there's actually ones you can get too. You can get like the ones from T-Mobile that actually have a LTE hotspot built in and do all the same stuff where they relay that to your phone.
Now,
they're not as
detailed.
Do
you know if that one is like IFTTT enabled?
I don't think so.
Yeah,
I don't think so. You might be able to mod it to be.
Yeah, that's the reason that like, with the automatic one that I saw, that was what stood out to me. Was like you can have it tied into like your lights, so you could just be like, when you show up at home, your automatic knows. Yeah. And it turns on your lights.
Yeah, which is awesome. Yeah. Do you want to talk about the some of the stuff down here in the dock real quick? It's up to you.
Sure, I guess.
Jump to some of that, and then we'll bring Calvin on. So the Red Hydrogen 1, we talked about this. It's a phone. Okay, looks really cool. So basically, what do we know? Because I actually didn't read much on this. You wrote this section up. So what do we know?
So first thing that I saw was MKBHD tweeting just some confirmed new specs. It's going to have a Snapdragon 835X, whatever that is. I haven't been able to find anything on that.
Interesting.
No articles I've seen have commented on what the difference is.
Okay.
But they've all mentioned it when talking about this phone, so who knows.
This excites me.
A 4,500 milliamp hour battery.
Which, assuming the 835X is maybe more efficient, if it's a refresh, it might be. Yeah. We'll see. But if it is, I mean, that's a significant improvement. But I always felt like 4,000 or so with the Snapdragon 835 on a stock Android, or even Samsung's slightly less power efficient, more bloated version of Android, is about what you need with an 835 for true all-day battery life.
Yeah.
That's what I've always felt is necessary. So...
the standard 1440p display, it will have a headphone jack, and it supports dual SIMs for people that need that.
Yeah.
And then...
I like that feature. I mean, it's a cool feature. Yeah. So. And a headphone jack, which, like you said, I mean, that's something I appreciate a lot. Whoa.
And we found out it does release this summer.
Yes, which is exciting.
So,
I mean, this is the type of phone, like, I want to see what the pricing's like. I want to see what it's like when it comes out. But this is the type, like, I might consider getting this.
I am most interested in whatever this holographic display is.
I'm most interested in whatever video features it has. Because if this can be...
Yeah, but if the holographic display is what they're hyping it to be, this could be a big deal.
It could be. This is true.
That's why I like the camera. Yes. I'm excited for
and
the camera.
When you look at Red's profit margins, they have the money to invest in some crazy tech like that.
Like, so I already know it's
going to be good.
I'm expecting the camera to be good.
I'm expecting it to be good too. Yeah. I'm more interested in like feature set, like what kind of adapters can you get? Can you get is it going to have micro SD adapters that allow you to record, or full size SD adapters that allow you to record the stuff? What's it shooting in? Is it 4K 60? How long can you shoot for? Does it overheat? Can you run power through the phone while you're filming? Does it have, micro HDMI output adapters? Yeah. Because I would love if this could be my, I could totally justify, even if it's really expensive, I could totally justify the cost of this if it's also my B camera. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then just use one of my other devices for recording from my lavalier. That's something I could justify. It's like, oh, I can go spend, $700 plus lenses and accessories, let's say $1,000 on a new camera, or I can spend $1,500 on a phone. Well, that's cheaper than buying a phone separate anyway.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and then supposedly with the modular stuff they're going to have that you can attach to the back, some of it will be stackable. So you could actually add to it
which means you might be able to turn it into an actual camera rig.
Yeah.
Which in that sense, if it's good enough, it might become my A camera. And this will be my B camera. Now, if this isn't that good, I am planning to buy another G7 this year to get two angles for WordCast and stuff, right? Joe is asking, will it have an 8K sensor? I doubt it. well, 8K in terms of video, I doubt it. Of course, it'll be able to shoot really high-res photos for sure. But what the sensor's capable of doing video-wise, I'm sure it's not going to be 8K. But I would assume 4K 60. That's my guess. That's my I guess, because phones already can shoot in 4K 30. Now they have limited time frames, so if they can get the heat from the sensor dissipated properly, and 4K 60, like that's a good upgrade. And I expect, and people will be willing to pay for that. If this has the best camera on it, and a really interesting display, and a huge battery with great battery life, and has attachments, I see no reason why somebody wouldn't be willing to pay $1,500 for it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to have 8K, because that would be like 33 megapixels.
Yeah, exactly.
We
That's
haven't
huge.
seen that in a phone.
The same guy, 8Lock from Twitch mentioned, he's like just like their, I was talking about profit margin, he's like, just like their high-end cameras, $20,000 and up. $20,000 for the body of the camera and up. Yeah, they're ridiculous. Actually, the thing about Red for me, I actually don't mind the really high prices for the camera bodies and lenses and stuff, because they're extremely premiumly built, first off, and second off, they are actually the best sensors on the market other than actual professional movie filming gear, and these can film movies that you would see on Netflix and stuff. There are a lot of films that are actually filmed on Red, right? So I can understand that. Yeah, and he's saying MKBHD's done reviews. Yeah, he does great reviews. The problem I have with Red, and Linus from Linus Tech Tips have talked about this, is their accessories. It's like, oh, here's this CNC milled handle that you've got to pay $1,000 for, and it's like, excuse me, you made that for like $6. That's where the profit margin issues come into play for me, is the accessories that they charge for that they shouldn't have to charge that much for, but because they're proprietary, they do.
Yeah. I also wonder if they spend so much of their R&D on advancing their camera tech that they use the overpriced accessories to pay for it.
Could be, yeah, could be. I mean, there might be justification for it. I still don't like it, though.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Okay, so Qualcomm has something interesting. They've been fined a tiny amount of money.
Yeah, $1.2 billion equivalent in U.S.
Billion. Now, that's actually not tiny for even a company
that
Qualcomm's
was
size.
4 or 5% or something like that of their annual 4.9% of their revenue in 2017.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
For a company that size. That's a lot of money.
5% of a company's revenue.
Yeah.
Fine.
That's significant.
So what they're getting fined over is it's violating antitrust laws in Europe, based around a deal that they had going with Apple, where essentially they were using their competitive advantage to essentially buy off Apple and ensure that Apple would not switch to Intel, pretty much, because Intel's the main competitor for chipsets and most importantly for modems.
Yes.
And so what the European Union found in their investigation that started in about 2015 is that from 2011 to 2016, which was the length of the deal that they had with Apple, they ended up paying Apple billions of dollars to keep their spot and essentially force them to grow as a company.
Right, and that would cost Apple money to switch to Intel because they're losing the money from Qualcomm, right?
Not just that, but they would have had to pay to get out of the contract, presumably. It would be, I imagine it would have been a contract that they were locked into.
This whole thing frustrates me. So they've been investigating since 2015. Right?
Yes.
So it's been significant.
Then
3 years.
Yeah, and Apple switched off of Qualcomm with the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus. That's when they switched to Intel, and then Qualcomm sued Intel and Apple.
Yeah, exactly. Which is like, this is the problem. I can't stand companies that do this. And, you know, I get frustrated with Intel repeatedly for being monopolistic in the way that they do things, the practices that they do, but they don't do the kind of evil corporate overlord stuff that Qualcomm does. Like Intel, sure, they overcharge you because there's nothing better on the market. I mean, there wasn't for a while, right? And, you know, they charge for little things that they shouldn't charge for. Like, oh, we unlocked our CPUs, you got to pay $20 for that. It's literally the exact same thing, no changes other than literally no work for Intel, right? But at least they're doing things that aren't like sketch. It's just like, hey, that's not cool. Like, obviously, you're screwing the consumers. You're charging us more money because you can. Qualcomm is literally like, oh, no, we're going to be a monopoly. We're going to force you to do things. And that is like, I hate Intel for the things they do, but this is like another level to the point that Qualcomm deserves this fine and probably more. It's unacceptable to have a market that is dominated by them. And part of the reason that it's covered up so much is because a lot of people, even phone enthusiasts and whatnot, don't know how big of a monopoly Qualcomm is in these industries, right?
Yeah.
And so you look at like people like there's a lot of PC gamers out there that understand that Intel has been a semi or mostly monopoly for a while, significant amount of time, right? Especially in the server market and stuff. And there's people that know that. It's not as widely known that Qualcomm is so powerful. And forcing companies like Apple to do stuff like this is really bad for the market.
Yeah.
Like, it's significantly bad for the market. And we don't want this kind of stuff happening because that ruins competition, which is, in theory, supposed to get you the best product for the best price. It doesn't if there's no competition. Intel has proven that by the best price stuff. But Qualcomm is basically like, oh, we don't care.
Yeah.
Qualcomm's
stranglehold on the US LTE market is exactly why we don't have the Exynos chips.
Exactly, which are amazing. They're better than Qualcomm's chips.
Yep.
They actually are, and they have been for a long time. And I haven't checked the latest set of chips, actually, but everything before the latest, at least, for sure, and I'm assuming the latest is Samsung's silicon is better. I don't know who Qualcomm sources from. Let me look that up. Keep talking about it a bit, though.
Yeah. So the other interesting thing, so with this fine, we're going to have to see how this affects all of the other stuff going on with Qualcomm right now.
Yeah.
Because, for one, they're trying to buy another company. A Dutch-based chip maker named MPX for $47 billion. On top of that, Broadcom is currently working on their hostile takeover of Qualcomm, and we'll see if this affects that, if Broadcom wants to back off a little bit or not. And then there's also the whole lawsuit against Apple over chip royalties pertaining to them not using Qualcomm and instead of using Intel.
It looks like Qualcomm uses TSMC, same fab that NVIDIA uses, I think. Or wait, no. So Qualcomm uses Samsung, but they might shift to TSMC. That was an article from last year, late last year, which wouldn't surprise me. Because Qualcomm probably wants to get away from their competitor, of course. So yeah.
Meanwhile, Apple's happy to work with Samsung. They just don't care.
I know. Well, the thing is,
because it's also like, I mean, Qualcomm knows this too. Helping out Samsung's chip manufacturing division doesn't help with their mobile division.
Yeah, right. Yeah, true. And say what you will about Apple when it comes to overcharging, because they do, and when it comes to high profit margins, because they have them.
I mean, most of their profits are on their App Store now.
Yes, true. But when it comes to a greedy mentality, right? I want to say something. That greedy mentality that Apple tends to have is in some ways good for the market. Mm-hmm. You look at Apple using competitors that maybe aren't even quite as good because they get a better price and can therefore increase their profit margins. They will do drastic moves to keep, especially when there's only 2 players in a market or 3 players in a market, they'll do drastic moves to keep a more monopolistic approach from happening so that they get the best deal, so that they can get the best profit margins. It's all in terms of making more money, but that is good for the market and preventing monopolies. Yeah. And so Apple, say what you will about them as a company, and a lot of what you probably will say is true, what they do in terms of, because they source from different companies, is they help keep the market a little bit balanced in some ways, especially in the more like mobile industry, right? And that's something that I can actually personally appreciate from them, is what they did with the SSDs, right? Is where they were worried about, was it hard drives or SSDs? SSD. They were worried about SSD prices going up because WD was going to buy Toshiba, and they basically blocked that because they're like, no, we're not going to have only 2 players in the SSD world.
Dell and a financial backing firm to buy.
Because they're preventing monopolies,
to stop WD from getting it.
Yes, and if you look at what Apple does, they never practice monopolistic tactics. They're not a monopoly. They can just charge you twice as much and you'll pay it anyway because Apple fanboys, etc., right? But they can do that, but that's okay because people are paying for that, and they are using branding to convince people to pay that cash. That's people's own will. They're not practicing monopolistic stuff to push that. Yeah. And that's where it becomes where it's okay, right? So, profit margins for them versus profit margins for a company like Intel that was doing monopolistic things, it's okay, in my opinion, on terms of what Apple does. So, yeah, anyway, what's this last thing? Apple users disable battery throttling?
Yeah, so there was the whole controversy over if when your battery degraded on your iPhone, it started throttling your processor.
Yep.
Everyone got mad at them for that, despite the fact that they did it to stop your phone from literally shutting off at random times.
Yes.
And
there's arguments that they may have done it further than they should have.
That's not my only problem is that they didn't tell people.
That's my biggest issue. Absolutely, yeah.
There should have been a prompt on screen when this started.
Like if your phone randomly shuts down, next time you boot up, it says, "Hey, we're slowing down the performance of your phone to prevent that from happening again," or something.
After they noticed it started being a problem.
Yeah.
They did the software update to fix it, which is still fine in my opinion.
But they didn't.
They should have just
notify.
had a prompt as soon as the phone detected that your battery was degrading enough that it was going to start making the decision to throttle.
Yes.
It should have come up with a prompt saying.
That's basically what I was trying to say. Yeah.
I don't think it should have had to go through the shutdown process. It should have stopped that. That's the point of it.
Well, I mean, the idea is to stop that, but I mean.
But yeah.
There are times where, like, exactly, yeah.
So a lot of people were all, like, initially wondering, like, well, why didn't they give us the option? It's like, because Apple doesn't give you the option for anything. You want to download large apps? That sucks. Go find Wi-Fi. It doesn't matter that you have unlimited data. Something I have a problem with on the iPhones. But they're actually going to be giving users the option. So presumably this is going to be still enabled by default, but you'll have the option to turn it off at your own risk.
Yes, it's probably deep in the settings.
Yeah.
But hey, if that's what you want, they're giving you the option. You should be able to do it. You should have the option. You bought this product. It shouldn't be up to them how it performs. It should be up to you. That's your decision. Now, it should be up to them what they recommend, right? But not what actually necessarily happens.
Because at that point, if you choose to do this and then your phone shuts off because you did that and something happens because your phone doesn't turn on, that's your fault.
Yeah, right.
Not Apple.
Exactly.
So get some liability out their head.
For sure. I also wanted to respond to a comment really quick. The same guy that's been watching for a while on the Twitch stream, he's saying I have a point about Apple, and then he was saying that he's saying that they have been behind and overcharged forever in the phone market, right? And I wanted to touch on that a little bit for reasons that I pretty much agree with you, but I feel like certain aspects, like their new silicon on their newer A11 chips, are really impressive. Now, I believe personally that the reason for that is the way the architecture is designed, I think, is using really heavy speculative execution further than maybe what Intel or AMD have developed in terms of an architecture for speculative execution, because we've seen some rumors, and it's just rumors, so I haven't really talked about it much on any of the podcasts, that iPhone might see a very significant performance drop-off due to the Spectre patches that'll be coming out for it in the future, right?
Yeah.
And the concern is it might be in the realm of like 40%, right? Now, nothing as far as I know has been confirmed yet, and I haven't looked super recently, so let me know if there's more. But but in terms of that is I think like that's an innovative area where they are actually pushing to do something that's pretty cool, along with their silicon is pretty impressive. Although one could also argue that because Qualcomm's been a monopoly in a lot of industries, it maybe makes sense that Qualcomm's chips aren't as good, right? But no, I do tend to agree that I mean they're overpriced, but people are willing to pay for that, and part of that is brand recognition. And for people that maybe don't understand tech, I can understand why they buy it. In terms, I know people that have said I buy iPhone because it makes me look wealthy, right? It's a status symbol, it's a fashion symbol, and while I disagree with that wholeheartedly, I'm a nerd, not a normal person, right?
They also have a better camera than most phones on the market.
Yeah, everything but the Pixel.
Yeah. So what I wanted to say though, there was, with the initial Spectre update that came out,
yes,
it was a whopping 2.5% difference in this testing.
Yeah, I know there was some testing that it wasn't much at first, but I read some potential rumors and future updates that could happen.
Yeah.
But
we also heard initially when all this came out that Intel processors were gonna just across the board take massive hits, and it ended up being they take big hits for very specific things, but not for most things. I feel like that will be what we end up seeing for this.
Yeah,
is 40% in very, very specific, very intense things, but not for most things that users would affect. So it's like your phone's just not going to start running like a 3-4-year-old phone.
Right, exactly. Yes. So. Yep. Is that pretty much all you have? Are we ready for Calvin to come on and talk for a bit?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, Calvin's gonna come over here and swap out for Daniel, because Calvin's not sick. So anyway, thank you everybody that watched that segment there, and of course, there'll be more to talk about here in just a moment. I did want to brush on, though 8lock mentioned a few more things in the chat. So first he said the Intel security issue with a question mark. So Meltdown is a specific security issue to Intel, but there's another variant of the same type of speculative execution issue called Spectre, and I might do a full rundown in a video about this at some point, but I talked about this in previous podcasts as well. But Spectre affects literally every processor on the market, every CPU that uses speculative execution, which includes the iPhone and includes Qualcomm's chips and Samsung's chips and basically everything on the market right now. So just wanted to point that out. Also, did our stream just disconnect? No, we're not losing anything. Just wanted to make sure. Twitch is just being glitchy. Okay, and then he's saying he's a Pixel user.
You get the notification, so just don't worry about it unless you get the notification.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure. And then he's saying he's a Pixel user, and he's like, being a nerd is okay. I agree with that. Okay, so let's jump into the next topic. So I don't know if you've read much into this. We're right here. I think you can see my highlight on the dock. I don't know if you actually can. Yeah. So we're right there. So Samsung released some new SSDs, and it actually might not be what you think. So it's not M.2 NVMe based SSDs, right? Which you know what those are, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So they're actually SATA based SSDs, 2.5-inch drives. Now, I think the push for this was actually partially related to Crucial releasing their MX500 1TB SSD. It was 1TB only model. I think Samsung might have pushed this out even sooner than they were planning to because that SSD was so good and so well priced. I mean, it's around $250. Let me check the current price on Amazon. MX500 1TB, and they actually have a 500 gigabyte and a 250 gigabyte model now. It came out exclusively in terabyte, and they have 2 terabyte model. But you're looking at $260 or $500 for the 1 terabyte, $500 for the 2 terabyte, which is impressive, and it performs very similarly to like an 850 Evo or Pro, right? So I think Samsung was trying to respond with this in a little ways, but both models are using 64-layer 3D NAND. They have an updated controller, which should help with garbage collection and other stuff like that. Trim as well as caching and whatnot. It's using low-power DDR4 RAM. So, yay, another thing using more RAM. So the RAM shortage, right?
Yeah, right.
And it should come out later. It's coming out later this month. Now we have some pricing info, although I don't think we have dedicated pricing for individual drives. But I'll just go over that here. So the 2.5, they're all. So the 860 Evo comes in 2.5-inch, 250 gigabytes, all the way up to 4 terabyte models, and everything in between. There's also an M.2 version, but it is SATA-based M.2, so keep that in mind. It doesn't mean it's going to perform NVMe-based. It doesn't mean it's going to perform good. You have to jump up to the 900 series to get that kind of performance. But there is an M.2 version that'll range from 250 gigs to 2 terabytes. And an M-SATA version that will range from 250 gigs to 1 terabyte. M-SATA, really small SATA base that's used on a lot of older machines. So that'd be a good upgrade for older thin and lights. And the prices on that are ranging from $95 to $1,400. 4 terabytes, $1,400.
Seems a bit expensive and almost unnecessary, but if you're willing to spend the cash, I guess.
Specifically,
Yeah.
like if you need a lot of storage in small space.
Right. And I guess I can understand that, but at the same time, like a 2 terabyte MX500 being $500, I feel like the range should be more like around the $1,000 instead of the $1,500 range, especially considering, and I mean that's comparing to Crucial, not comparing to Samsung's pricing, of course, and Samsung's NAND is a little bit different and tends to be a little bit better, especially in terms of reliability. But $1,400, it seems like that's a little bit overkill because it's not like they're running out of space inside a 2.5-inch enclosure. They've got plenty of space for a massive amount of flash there. Anyway, then there's the 860 Pro, which is 2.5-inch drive only, which I actually find interesting. But their Pro series of drives doesn't usually sell very good in terms of, especially for 2.5-inch drives. It's like there's only so much you can do with a SATA-based drive. Their Pro stuff sells better on like the NVMe market, but ranges from $140 to $1,900 from 256 gigs to 4 terabytes. That's a little insane.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you need a mass amount of storage, you should probably go with the MX500 and get 2 terabytes, unless you need 4 terabytes in a single 2.5-inch drive.
Yeah.
And currently, getting 4 terabytes in a 2.5-inch drive, even hard drive based, is you have to buy thicker drives. They're 11 millimeters thick instead of 7 millimeters, which won't fit in most machines. And weirdly enough, even like my Sega here doesn't have. They could have, but they actually made the cage too small to fit 11 millimeters in there. You could fit a 10 mil, but not an 11. So I can't put 4 terabytes in here. I have 2 terabytes instead.
Nice.
So kind of weird. Not a bunch of performance metrics on it yet. They were just announced, but it's interesting.
Yeah.
Probably won't end up going with this. I'll probably still stick with my MX500 that I plan to get a couple of for games. So, Intel released a 760p NVMe-based SSD. It's a budget NVMe SSD. They had the 600p, which I'm actually running in this laptop right here, a 256 gig model. Performed pretty good. Had lots of drop-offs in terms of like some of the in some of the lower queue depths, it didn't perform as good as other SSDs and other stuff like that. But 128 gigs is going to be $74.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cheap. 256 gig is $109, and 512 gigs is $199.
Yeah.
So for M.2 SSDs that are faster than SATA, and I mean, we're not looking like massive amounts faster than SATA, but still significant. It's impressive, in my opinion. Now, I haven't read any super detailed storage reports on this yet, like something from like Alan Malventano over at PC Per. I haven't read anything. I don't think he's done an actual full review on the 760p yet, so I'll probably update this when somebody like that does. Trusted source there. He does great work. But they're claiming the 512 gig has a read speed of 3,230 megabytes per second and a write speed of 1,625 megabytes per second with 340,000 read IOPS and 275,000 write IOPS. That sounds like really good performance, but as we know, the numbers claimed for like the 600p were claimed higher. It was like one instance that it performed that way versus like Intel's 900p Optane-based SSDs. It was like they underrated it, and 3D Crosspoint memory is so fast that the controller couldn't keep up on that SSD in particular, where it was like, oh, it's actually could perform way better, but we can't. So, I don't know. It's interesting. Also, Game Over Talk Show says, what up? Hi. Game's not over. I mean, you say you're Game Over Talk Show, but the game's not over. We're still going. So I don't know.
The game's never over.
I guess the game's never over. Yeah, as Daniel says off camera.
No, that game is over. We're done with that. Anyways.
So.
And you lose.
This is a big topic, and I want to get your thoughts on this. So, there's a whole restructuring of AMD's Radio Technologies Group leadership. Now, before that, I want to mention that Lisa Su, the CEO of AMD, kind of helped save AMD both by good management practices as well as hiring the right people. She hired Jim Keller to build their new CPU architecture for the Zen architecture, and what do you know, it's amazing. Just like the last architecture they used Jim Keller for, it competes really well with Intel. And on an architectural standpoint, I know clock speeds and stuff and silicon aren't quite as good in terms of what Intel's running. But just a little bit of background, is she's done some amazing things with AMD, and you can't deny that the CEO switched, and a couple of years later they're back and relevant again. That's a big deal, right? Well, Lisa Stu is still overseeing everything. You remember Raja Kaduri leaving Radeon Technologies Group? He was overseeing everything, and it was essentially operating as a separate company, just equal financials and stuff, right? So their head engineer has been changed. There's two main things to point out that have changed here, but the whole thing's been restructured. So we could see some pretty impressive stuff coming out from like Navi and whatnot when that architecture comes out. But their head engineer is David Wang. Don't know a lot about it, but yeah, that's his name. It's a very basic name, I know, and yeah,
basic name.
A basic name like David Wang. It's like, oh, okay, well, but I mean, from what I've read on his background, and I don't know a lot about him, like, in terms of, like, Jim Keller, I know a lot about his background. I don't know that much about David Wang's background. But from what I read briefly, so he's been with AMD for a long time. He actually started really low there and climbed his way up and went through a whole bunch of acquisitions. And this source is actually from Anantech. Went through a whole bunch of acquisitions. Let's see, from ArtX when ATI bought out ArtX, and then AMD when AMD bought out ATI. So he's been around since the beginning. Basically, every GPU with AMD or ATI branding on it since the R9 300 series and back had him operating on it. So, big influence. Guy knows what he's doing. He also left AMD a couple years ago to be the senior vice president of Synaptics. Do you know what Synaptics is?
No clue.
Touchpad drivers.
Okay.
They do a lot of touch-based stuff. They're also the ones that have developed the new through-screen fingerprint sensors.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so he worked for them, but he's going back to AMD, which is interesting. That Lisa seems to be pulling back everybody that left AMD. Probably, we don't know insider information, but I think we could assume that these people were leaving in terms of they didn't like the management, and now that things are better, they're getting pulled back to these companies.
Yeah.
David Wang is one of many, he looks like he has a pretty good solid engineering background and hopefully can actually help push them into the modern day. What I will say is one of the last competitive architectures from AMD was the Hawaii architecture, which guess what was when he was around.
Yeah.
So judging by that, Hawaii was hot, but it competed really good. All right, it wasn't like man's not hot. It was way too hot, but it competed really well. Yeah, the man had to take off his jacket. Yes, but yeah. So that makes me speculate at least that this guy knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
So hopefully we see some good stuff come out of that. With Jim Keller, I was sure once I saw that he was getting hired on that they'd have a competitive architecture. In this case, I feel the same way, but I can't say that I'm sure, so I'm not going to bet all my money on it, so to speak. But that's interesting. And then the senior vice president and general manager is going to be Mike Rayfield. And he doesn't have much GPU background or anything like that, but he's doing the business side of things, not so much the engineering. So
that doesn't really matter.
Fine. Doesn't matter at all. Yeah, but he was the director of business development at Cisco for 5 years. For a while, not for 5 years. He was also the vice president and general manager for Micron for the last 5 years. So he has experience understanding the tech world and how it operates, and not necessarily on an engineering standpoint, but a business standpoint.
Yeah. And that's all that really matters when you're looking for your vice president and GM. So,
yeah, exactly. So, I think this is looking up for them. I hope we see some good stuff come out of RTG. Vega is a good architecture. Raja did do a pretty good job with it, but at the same time, it's not a good architecture to desktops. And I think the market's learning that you need to impress the super nerd enthusiasts like us in order to succeed in all the other markets. You succeed on the desktop, you start to succeed, and you succeed in the server world, you start to succeed in mobile and consumer-based stuff.
Yeah.
And I think the reasoning for that is because we speak the loudest.
Yeah.
When somebody releases something horrible, everybody knows about it because we all yell about it, right? And so it ends up in mainstream news in a lot of cases, the whole you can't buy GPUs right now because cryptocurrency, right, is taking over. That has reached things like CNBC and stuff because we're speaking really loud about it. But that's just the nerds that are pissed.
Yeah, fuck miners.
Hey, no. So anyway, I think this is looking up for them. And I think that they need to impress the enthusiasts in the desktop market to help pull in money from other markets. Because Vega is really good in terms of mobile. It's also really good in terms of server and workstation applications in specific instances, especially server. It's just not good on high-end desktop graphics.
Yeah.
And especially for mobile, as a person that maybe isn't super enthused and doesn't understand architectural design and stuff, like some of the people that work around here do, you see, I watched a review from Linus Tech Tips or Gamers Nexus or whatever on Vega, and it wasn't that great. Why would I buy a laptop with Vega in it? I'm going to go NVIDIA.
Yeah.
That's the assumption you do is, NVIDIA is performing good, Vega's not, and the desktop stuff comes out first. And so you have to impress with that. So I think that's kind of the mistake on AMD's part, is people aren't as interested now in buying Vega-based mobile stuff because it's it's...
Plus, I think NVIDIA is just more of a household name at this point. Even people who've never bought a computer before, they've heard the name GTX. I mean, you look behind us, for instance, we have a poster, EVGA, you see the green, you just immediately assume, it's got to be NVIDIA, even though it's not. So, just household names like that sort of come up, branding issues. AMD is just trying to catch back up. Hopefully they'll come back in, though.
Yep. And I'd like to see them come back. Just because competition's good for the market. And I want to see Intel make GPUs, too.
Fanboy.
Yeah.
I'm not a fanboy.
Just admit it. Why are you so scared to admit you're a fanboy?
I'm not a fanboy.
You love AMD.
I'm not a fanboy.
Yes, you are.
The last 2 GPUs I've owned have been NVIDIA.
That doesn't mean you're not a fanboy.
I'm not a fanboy.
I'm an Apple fanboy, and I only just now got an iPhone.
Okay, I used to be an AMD biased fanboy. I'm not an AMD fanboy anymore. I like their company structuring because I like what they do and they tend to stand for.
Okay.
That's not a fanboy. That's a separate thing. Okay.
Leave your
I will
comments.
100% admit I used to be an AMD fanboy.
Leave your
I
comments.
will say
Let
that
us
now
know.
I am not.
Okay. Well, let's let the audience decide. Let us know. Do you
Let's
guys
let the
think
audience
Ethan,
who doesn't know me very well decide on this.
Do you guys think Ethan is an AMD fanboy? Yes or no? Even just based on the red wall behind us, if that's making him a fanboy.
Okay, so red wall that literally wasn't painted by me and wasn't chosen color by me, and isn't the same color as AMD's red anyway.
Can you prove that?
Not on stream.
There you go. Science.
Science.
Anyways.
And he has that red jacket.
I
Red
do.
jacket.
I own a
Nobody
red
actually
jacket.
knows.
Red cups. You know, yeah, I must be an AMD fanboy, big time. Even though my favorite color is green.
What graphics card do you currently have?
Okay,
Yeah,
I
it's
currently
all
have an AMD graphics card because I could get my hands on one
So you're
at
saying
MSRP.
that the only requirement for you to buy an AMD graphics card is that you can buy one.
It's okay. Everyone, it's okay.
I'm saying I couldn't get my hands on anything else, Daniel.
Ethan's just jealous because I have a 1080 Ti. It's we
I'm
can calm
I'm not
down.
jealous that you have a 1080 Ti. I'm jealous that you got a 1080 Ti in a system that was fairly high end for $800 total. That made me mad.
Yeah. For those of you who didn't
You
know,
got a
I'm the one who got the
$750
1080 Ti.
graphics card for $800 with an entire system around it.
Hell yeah. There'll be a video coming on that soon, by the way, with benchmarks and things on my PC, so... be looking
Oh yeah,
forward
that's
to
right.
that.
We need to do that, don't we?
We're basically waiting for the cable sleeves to come in. If that takes too long, then I will just
Friday.
do the benchmarking video.
Well, the sleeving materials come in Friday.
Yeah.
I've got to do the sleeving, and that's going to take time.
Yeah, so it'll either be, we'll post the video first, and then we'll do an update of like, oh, look, now it's all fancy, and you can see the coolness of it.
I would love to shoot some B-roll of that once it's done. No, I'm going to be doing a tutorial, actually, on cable sleeving for power supplies, too, in case anybody's interested, and just being notified about that. We'll definitely be posting that. I don't know exactly when it'll be. I'm getting the materials needed to do it on Friday and doing it for his AX860i power supply. That's going to be fun. I just dropped $350 on cable stuff.
I dropped $800 on a 1080 Ti.
Well, you see, I made a deal with this guy here. Is I was like, hey, if you let me use your AX860i for my first set of custom cable sleeves, I'll do it for free, right? Which is fine. And I was like, okay, labor for free. Yeah, I had forgotten I needed $200 of tools. Now that's an investment for me, and $150 of supplies. So I basically gave you $150
So I came out with that 1080 Ti. Not to mention I sold the soundboard for $60.
to me.
I don't think I've sold anything else out of it yet, but so effectively 150 minus 60, that's $210. So I got a 1080 Ti plus everything else that came with the computer, which we can go over later, for effectively $590.
It's like,
And I have a second computer now.
I hate you. You're like, oh yeah. I bought this new computer for $800. I have a 1080 Ti, and oh wait, I made some cash, and I'm getting free custom cables to match the theme that I want to go with.
Calvin, is he currently killing your GPU?
Huh?
Probably.
Is 960?
Yeah.
He's mining.
I'm
on
mining with his 960,
Yeah, so you're
but
killing it.
I'm not killing it. That thing can mine for 4 years without a problem. It's fine.
10 minutes from now it dies.
Right. I told him I'd replace it if it did die, but
Alright,
it's
we're
not going to die.
Back on subject.
Yeah, back on subject. Sorry, guys.
Long little 10-minute tangent. That was fun though.
Yeah, right. Oh, and see, Joe made something really good. The channel color is green, so I can't be an AMD fanboy. I can't like
Or
AMD.
you picked that
Joe
to
stopped taking
hide
his
it.
side.
No, you picked
Oh
green
man.
channel name so that he could hide
Oh,
it.
that's right. He's trying to throw us off. See,
Yeah.
that was the diversion. It's the green there, but he's subtextually red.
AMD's colors used to be green.
That's true.
AMD used to be Team Green. You are an AMD fanboy.
Okay, so
Warrior.
also 8lock said he's like, did you buy it from Hard Up Crackhead? Yeah, 'cause I don't know, like when he told me he was getting this stuff for this price, I was like, what? And then the guy came through and it's like, what?
Yeah, so it was
No.
it was a friend from work. I work for a semiconductor place, and so he was telling me like, oh yeah, he was telling me his basic parts. He's like, I've got an i5, the motherboard.
It's a 4690K or 4670K. It's a solid motherboard.
That's mine.
You're using the 4790K.
Oh, no, that's right.
His is a 4670K.
I was thinking of 3590 for some reason. Anyways, And then the power supply is telling me it's got 16 gigs of RAM. I'm like, okay, that's all pretty standard. It's pretty much what I have, but mine's a little bit better. Oh, and I got a 1080 Ti. I was like, what?
And an AX860i. That is one of the nicest power supplies when this thing was built. That was one of the nicest ones you could buy.
And so I was like...
And the motherboard is an ROG board.
Yeah, and so I was like, okay, so he's probably going to want like $1,200 for the PC. And he's like, yeah, so I'd probably sell it for like $800. I literally walked out of the fab and said, I will give you my wallet right now. Just give me it. And he said, okay, well, I'll talk to you later. His girlfriend wound up not wanting to sign off on it. And so I hadn't heard anything about it for a couple months. And then out of nowhere, out of the blue, he just emails me. He's like, hey, you still want to buy the computer? I was like, yeah, sure. I'd be interested. And so I didn't think he was going to go for the original price. I thought he was going to upsell it now that he knows that graphics card prices are through the roof. Yeah. And he's like...
Because he bought this recently, like, at a time where you can't find, like, a 1070 for under $800.
Yeah, like, I just bought this for... I literally bought this 2 weeks ago. I spent my entire paycheck on it, pretty much. And, yeah. And then, pretty much after that, plugged it in. It's good to go. It's running at my house right now. It's just sitting there.
Being a beast.
Yeah.
Being a beast, yes.
But
I do appreciate, since I helped you assemble everything, and I'm giving you, a bunch of sleeving stuff and sleeving for you. I appreciate the lunch you bought me. I also appreciate you letting me, hammer your 960 for some mining. As well as, I mean, it is a Strix edition, guys. It's running at, like, 55C. It's not going to hurt it. So, but I still appreciate you letting me make, like, $3 a day with your graphics card. So... Although, I'm sure you're going to need it again at some point. But
Probably. I'll just use it as a physics card, because that's still a thing.
I know, yeah, for like the 2 games in the world that use it. Like, if you play Borderlands ever, you'll use it. To be fair,
I love Batman Arkham Asylum. And I love that. I love that cape.
Yes.
I think the 1080 Ti would be fast enough that the 960 would actually be worse.
Shut up.
It would probably actually slow it down because it's having to transfer all the physics data to it. Yeah. It's like, I'm running a 1080 Ti with a 960 as my physics card, and people are like, you're an idiot.
I'll just mine with it at home and play on my 1080 Ti.
Yeah. Can you not mine with it at home?
What? No.
I have to pay the electricity bill.
Exactly.
But the 960 is really efficient. It is really efficient. I mean, you're looking at like maybe $1 a month.
So
maybe you're seeing like $1 or $2 a month increase.
Okay,
in
while these two
costs.
argue, let's get back on topic since we're sort of on the topic of cryptocurrency. Anyways, let's talk about the currency.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna skip this one and come back to it.
Yeah.
Okay. So cryptocurrency thoughts. Yes. So I wanted to bring this up because this has been a huge thing. A lot of people have been talking. A lot of like news outlets as well as especially like media on YouTube have been talking about the inability to buy GPUs lately. Jay's 2 Cents made a video on it. Gamers Nexus made a video. Tech Syndicate made a video. I actually tended to agree with Tech Syndicate, even though he was kind of rude to Jay in my opinion. He made a response video to Jay's video about it.
I don't like people being rude.
Yeah. It was calling Jay self-righteous, and I'm like, chill out. Like, I agree with your standpoint, Logan, but chill out. But anyway, I wanted to touch on this a little bit here. So I'm currently mining with an RX 580 Strix Edition as well as his 960 Strix Edition, right? Both are running at really cool temperatures. I'm not going to talk about degradation of GPUs and stuff here because that's a whole nother topic that'll take a long time. Maybe I'll make a video on that. But anyway, I'm making about $10 a day. Is what I'm not 10. Sorry. Yeah. No. Well, that ends up being about $10 a day. Yeah, with both of those, depending on the price of Bitcoin and stuff and the other prices of other cryptocurrencies. I'm using NiceHash, so some of that gets taken for NiceHash's profit. But that's the simple way that I'm using it right now to just throw it on computers that I want to mine with. I even have it set up on my laptop if I want to mine with my 1070 in here, which is that's like a $4 a day card. So at current market value. Now, I understand people's frustration 100%, including my own frustration. And I talked about this briefly in some other videos, but I wanted to touch on some more detail. I understand people's frustration about not being able to buy GPUs. You can't find anything for any decent price right now. Like, let me go to Amazon. Let's look up a 1070. Let's see what's available.
Let's look up a 1060 that costs $300.
You're right. Yeah. Okay. And also, our stream, we're still not dropping anything. All right, good. So here, let's see a 1070. $1,000, $900, $1,100, $750. $850.
$750. What are you complaining about?
Right, I know. That's only the price of a 1080 Ti. So the GTX 1070 prices are insane. Actually, that $750 was for a 1070 Ti. Even though the $1,000 is for 1070 standard. Anyway.
Get on Amazon, everybody.
Amazon, right?
While you still can.
Buy. So I can understand people's frustration. And before I say a few things that I'm about to, I wanted to touch on, I'm frustrated too. Because I actually would like a higher-end GPU in my system. I'm probably holding off till NVIDIA releases Ampere, which is hopefully this year.
So that way miners can buy all of those.
But yeah, if mining's still around then, and Ampere's good at mining, which we can probably assume it will be, they're all going to be bought up again, and I'm going to be frustrated with that too. And in fact, when I bought my RX 580 Strix Edition, I got one of the last ones you could buy. I bought it because I was upgrading from a 660 Ti, because that's what I had available to me to run in this system. And I had a 1070 in my laptop, so I could still game on this. But I wanted something that I could game on my Threadripper system with, and so I bought the RX 580 Strix Edition. There was 11 of them in stock when I purchased it. The next day they were out of stock. They haven't been back in stock since. Like, for not that I've noticed. I'm sure they have been, and they were all sold instantly, right?
Yeah.
So I can understand people's frustration, and this comes from a gamer's perspective and a miner's perspective, because I do both, and an enthusiast perspective, right? But I think people need to relax and stop yelling at the miners. And the reasoning for this is I think we all need to chill and don't shake your head. I want to get your opinions on this. So we all need to chill, because the understanding... So the people that are hurting the market are not miners in general. They're not people like me that might go buy a couple of used 970s to start mining more with from eBay. That's not the problem with the market. The problem is people that are filling warehouses with GPUs. It's people that are buying 60 graphics cards or getting a pallet load of 100 graphics cards directly from NVIDIA or AMD or some of the add-in board partners, right? They're getting these pallet loads of GPUs to do mining with. Those are the people that I think you have a right to be frustrated with. I don't think being frustrated with miners in general and boycotting mining is the way to fix that. If you have a GPU right now that can maintain decent temperatures and your electricity isn't insanely expensive, like we live in Oregon, we have great electricity costs here, you should be mining because it makes money.
You should be also spending the extra money if you have to use clean energy instead of fucking up our environment.
So there is a standpoint on that. But, again, here in Oregon, a lot of our power is renewable. A large amount of it. Bonneville Dam and stuff, right? So it depends on your geographical location. Environmental impact is an aspect of it, and that's not something I'm going to get into here, because that becomes more of a political standpoint, but it is an aspect. If you have things to say, you come sit over, come stand behind here, and you talk.
Just because it impacts the environment doesn't mean it's political. Fuck that bullshit.
No swearing on the podcast, Daniel.
Fuck.
Demonetized.
Yeah, actually, I don't want to get demonetized, so we should avoid certain words. Yeah. So the other thing that I want to say is just because a product is built solid and can do more than one thing doesn't mean it should only be used for one thing. And so people may not like my standpoint on this, but I'm actually in support of mining for the most part. And if you have a GPU, you should be mining because it makes money. Are you shaking your head?
Yeah. I don't know. I just feel like it's kind of... I mean, if you already have a GPU...
Well, that's what I mean. Yes. If you're a gamer and you have one, you should be mining.
And you happen to be doing nothing with it.
And you shouldn't be... I don't agree with...
about keeping your GPU very long term, which some people do.
I mean, keeping your GPU... Okay, I'm sorry, but if you plan to upgrade your GPU in the next 6 years, you might as well mine on it. It's not gonna kill it that quick. It's surprising. It's using the same silicon that server hardware uses and that workstation hardware uses that are constantly under 100% stress load, and that silicon lasts a long time too. Yeah, but so those things are built to last.
Person who works in the silicon industry, I guarantee you, silicon is in such a shitty place right now.
Oh, it is. We know that, but not in terms of quality of silicon, in terms of quantity
and
of silicon.
I deal with these silicon wafers every day. I guarantee you the ones you wind up getting are lower quality than you would have gotten a year ago.
You deal with the silicon wafers for washing machines, not for, not an 800-millimeter die square. It all comes from the
same source.
Some code delivers...
And we do silicon like that as well. Not all of it is... We do have technology development.
I understand.
We do have more advanced technologies.
Right.
We are not just in washing machines.
Washing machines.
And we are also held to higher standards than that of computer manufacturing, because we have to go into vehicles which go 120 plus miles an hour and hold people in them. Your computer is not holding a person in it.
Okay, this is true.
It's busy mining Bitcoin.
You need to stop justifying. No, I'm kidding. Okay,
Stop
but,
spitting
but,
facts.
But what I want to say is your GPU is not going to die quickly. I want just if you have good temperatures and you don't have an unlucky piece of silicon, it's not going to kill it quickly. But that's not really the topic here that I'm going over. I'm going over the people that are frustrated with miners and the gamers that are frustrated with miners. I think you have every right to be frustrated that you can't buy GPUs, but you don't need to be mad at miners because it's NVIDIA and AMD's fault and silicon suppliers' fault, as well as it's the people buying these bulk loads. Like NVIDIA should not be selling pallet loads to people. That's not cool, right? But on the other hand, these cards are being used for something that's making a profit. There's an incentive there, and until that crashes, people are going to buy them, and it's something you have to get used to, wait it out, and work around it. So if you have a GPU right now and you want to buy a new one, you should be mining and save the money that you're making from mining to go towards your GPU when you can finally buy one again. Now, I do understand people's frustration, because I'm frustrated too. I wish there were more GPUs on the market, and I think companies need to attempt to ramp up manufacturing. I think that companies like AMD are being careful about ramping up manufacturing, because last time the coin mining stuff was huge, AMD way over manufactured and then had to sell for lower than cost to sell out all their old stuff with their like R9 200 series, right? Their old Hawaii chips were really good at it. And so AMD's probably being much more conservative, smartly so here, but that's why people are also buying NVIDIA cards to mine, as well as NVIDIA cards are good at mining specific cryptocurrencies.
Yeah.
Now...
Like bananas.
Like bananas. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Now, obviously, high electricity usage is something to factor into it if you are mining. We all know this. Now, I don't know what your thoughts are on, and I'm trying to go over the topic here, though, of people being frustrated with miners. And I don't know what's your stance on the whole issue that's going on right now, because you can't buy a GPU for MSRP, not even a used one.
I think people have right to be mad at miners and not the manufacturers. It's not the manufacturer's responsibility to... I mean, sure, it's the manufacturer's responsibility in a sense to make sure that they're not doing this, but like if they're gonna make a sale, they're gonna make a sale. They're not gonna deny a sale because like, oh, that person right there, he's buying 300 of them. Sell it to them. They're not gonna say no.
Right. It's like
why on earth would they do that? That's just a dumb business practice.
Yes, and that's another thing I wanted to touch on is people thinking that NVIDIA is playing this big guy. Oh, we're trying to encourage retailers not to sell to miners. Yeah, because they buy them by the pallet load from you.
Yeah.
You don't just go, oh, we're not going to sell it for the good of helping people. You're a business, and that's your ultimate goal is profit.
Yeah, and so, like, being mad at NVIDIA and AMD like that, what?
How can they buy them directly from NVIDIA when NVIDIA only sells they actually have, like, a contract with Best Buy for the built by NVIDIA ones?
Okay, so I read some information on that. It might not be NVIDIA directly. It might be the add-in board partners.
That would make sense.
They're selling them by the pallet load.
Because literally, like, Best Buy is the only place that can sell the built by.
The built by, right? Well, and their own site.
Yeah.
But which means they can sell them themselves, though. So
there's no option in their site for like mass bulk orders.
You have to.
No, there's not. It's direct contact because if you're buying 600 GPUs, like NVIDIA is going to talk to you in person if you're about to go spend $3 million on graphics cards.
Yeah, because you can buy microcontrollers from where I work. Like you just have to call in to their sales department and you'd have to tell them.
One?
No. You have to buy them by, like,
4
bulk load.
Yeah.
You have to spend at least, like, $100,000.
Joe is asking, so is our washing machine secretly mining?
We'll have an update for you. Check back next week for our
tutorial on how to mine on IoT. No.
We make a total of 0.006 cents a year, but after 300 million years,
you know though, if you can infect machines and you're making 0.0006 cents a year on 5 billion devices.
But that's assuming that all washing machines are Wi-Fi connected.
Well, no, but not just washing machines. Now I'm talking IoT. You've got to use some major like vulnerabilities. Microwave?
Yeah, can we like mine microwaves?
A minor wave.
No, microwave.
A microwave. I like
people
that.
People
I like
think
that.
it's mincrowave or something stupid shit.
I wanted to touch on something. So 8lock is over in the Twitch chat, and he asked a question. So he's like, so should I mine? I have a GeForce GTX 1070 in my i7 Alienware. So to answer that question, question. First thing you have to look at is it a desktop or a laptop? If it's a laptop, you probably shouldn't mine with it because that stresses the power supply, the battery system, as well as the GPU is under higher temperature loads because laptops can't keep them cool. But if it's an Alienware desktop, which I'm assuming it is here, then you want to see if it is a blower style card because those tend to run a little bit hotter. But even so, if it's a blower style card, which is the stock NVIDIA one that NVIDIA actually sells, like at Best Buy and stuff, right? It's got the one little fan and it's silver, black on the top. If it's that one, your temperatures might be a little higher, so something just to factor in. If you have a secondary card, then your temperature should be totally fine if it's like a Strix edition or something from Asus. But either way, if it's a desktop, I think you should be mining, assuming your electricity is not too expensive. So if you go to, if you just Google search NiceHash calculator, right, you can find a link to NiceHash's calculator, profitability calculator, which actually allows you to enter your specific GPU, your actual kilowatt hour price, which you can do a Google search on, like whatever state you live in, like, you know, Oregon, average kilowatt per hour or average electricity price, and it'll tell you in kilowatt hours. You enter that in, and then it'll calculate if it's profitable or not. Now, I use NiceHash for mining. That's my personal preference. And basically, it's a mining market where people can actually buy your mining power and you offer your mining power. And so, if you're, especially because you're running NVIDIA, you can download the NiceHash miner and make an account with NiceHash, get a wallet, a Bitcoin wallet. You start mining specific cryptocurrencies that make you money, or make money for your GPU, that your GPU is good at mining, because mining Bitcoin isn't something that current like desktop graphics cards can do. It's not profitable. And then you get paid in Bitcoin, which you can then later, you know, do a transfer to like Coinbase and exchange that for cash. So personally with the 1070, like, yeah, I think you probably should be mining. There's lots of tutorials on more information on how to do it with NiceHash, but just keep in mind that it could shorten the lifespan of your GPU, especially if it is a blower card and is running at higher temperatures. I don't think it's going to be anything significant still, but just keep that in mind if you're the type of person that keeps a GPU for 4 or 5 years. You might not want to do it 24/7 or whatever. Give it a break here and there, or, you know, turn it off, you know, during the day and turn it on during the night or something like that, right? If it's in a laptop, don't do it. Okay. So yeah. Next topic here. Let's see. Oh wait, no, I want one last thing. So yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, be frustrated with the companies that are selling in bulk loads, that are trying to lie to you and claim they're here for the gamers. The miners are there buying stuff, they're making money, but there's an incentive to make money. You're not going to stop them. And there's miners out there that I'm sure are like, oh, all these freaking gamers buying up all the cards, now I can't buy, you know, a 970 or a 1070 to do my mining with, right? Because both people are trying to buy right now. It's not mining consuming 100% of the GPU market. It's all of a sudden you have a doubling in people that want to buy graphics cards.
Yeah, but to be
Can't
fair,
keep
when
up.
you're buying a card that's literally designed for gaming, and you're a miner that's like, fuck the gamers that are trying to buy this gaming-specific graphics card.
Hey, it's not the miner's fault.
Yes,
that it's
but
designed really well.
You know, the same kind of argument could be made for like cars is, oh, well, screw all the people that are buying big trucks that don't use them for what they do. They're burning extra gas. That's stupid. It's screwing over
Well,
the...
if you're talking about it in the context of like, oh, I can't buy a truck.
Yeah, but
Well,
that's
but,
be
you
mad
know-
at the truck manufacturer in that situation. You should be mad at the people buying the trucks.
True, because they're okay. So, but the analogy I was trying to use was related like gas prices. Is like, oh well, now there's more people buying gas. Demand goes up, gas prices go up. Right? Because trucks burn more gas. Like I'm speaking in you know theory here, right?
It's a bad analogy.
It's not a bad analogy.
It is.
That would be like...
You don't use trucks for what they're made for, but you're buying one. They burn lots of gas, but now gas prices are going up because you're burning more gas.
More like saying electricity prices.
It'd be more like saying electricity prices are going up, yes.
Yeah,
but
but they're not.
I'm saying that a similar argument is buying something that's and using it for something that's not meant to is part
But
of
that's...
you know how things work.
I know, but I'm just saying that's more of a fair, valid reason to be upset as if you're using it for something other than what it's made for.
Right,
Like,
right.
If you're getting mad at someone for buying something for what it's made for, you're an idiot.
Yeah,
That's all
yeah. I get what you mean. Yeah, yeah.
Like if you were trying to buy that Sager laptop, but it sold out because somebody wanted it for making Word documents.
Yeah, I mean, then it's like, yeah, I understand where you're coming from. And so, like I said, like I think people have a right to be frustrated, but the direction of that frustration has been all over the place in ways that it maybe shouldn't be. Right?
Yeah.
Daniel's putting his foot on my case. I'm about to beat his ass.
All right, so let's move on because we have a few more topics here, although the rest of them are going to be fairly quick. But Facebook, together with Oculus, invented a new unit of time. And it actually is really cool. Okay, so it's called a flick, which stands for frame tick. Okay, so it's called a flick. And it sounds kind of dumb, but it's actually really, really, really cool. When I was looking into it, I was like, this is actually good. So it's designed for content creators, specifically around like a video production, right? So a flick is 7 billion 56 millionth of a second. So that's 1 divided by 7.056.00000. I think I counted the zeros right. Yes. So anyway, so it sounds like a really arbitrary number, like that's really weird, right? But there's actually a reason. So it's divisible by very common frame rates, right? So you're looking at like 24, 25, 30, 32, 60, 90, 100, 120 go into that evenly in an even number. Now the reason for this being is so 24 FPS in film is exactly 29,400,000 flicks per frame. Right? That is an exact number. Versus a large floating point number that's rounded in seconds, whereas in 24 FPS, one frame in seconds is 0.04166666667, 6 forever. So it has to be rounded at some point of a second. So it makes things it just makes more sense.
So essentially, this is the metric system for filmmaking.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Everything's divisible by
yes, everything's divisible by
something that comes before it.
Yes, everything is divisible by 7,056,000,000.
Get more whole numbers, less dealing with all of that.
Yeah, so it's actually a cool thing. I don't know if it's going to catch on very much because Facebook isn't a video production company in terms of like software that people use, right? So
Oculus.
I don't know, but Oculus, it could be beneficial to them in some ways. So I mean, hey, it helps with things. It helps with it could help with smoothness. Being able to manage things via flicks instead. It's gonna be funny if 10 years from now that's like a common term, like the word frame. I don't think it will be, but it's cool. Okay.
Manage your flicks.
Yes, flicks.
It's interesting. It just seems like it's kind of one of those like quality of life sort of changes that people who are really into that sort of stuff will use.
Yes.
Sort of as like commonplace words, but not really like necessary.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like I do a lot of video editing, so I'm interested in it, but it's not something that's going to catch on. Or it's also like the metric system, which is better, but nobody uses it here in America.
But everybody else in the world uses it, except for there's one other country I can't remember off the top of my head.
Why do we deny that?
Probably New Jersey.
It's like, something makes more sense, but just no. Anyway.
Well, we didn't deny it. We had it. We just didn't make it mandatory. We made it voluntary. That's why it didn't catch on. Because everyone was like, we don't want to do it.
I don't want to switch to something that's way easier to learn. Why not?
Don't take away my inches.
Right. Don't take away my more complicated maths.
All of 20 miles in Arizona, actually going towards the Mexican border, does have signs that are in kilometers, but it only tells you one direction.
Yep.
And that is Mexico.
It's weird. So, some Ryzen news. There's been Ryzen news almost every freaking week at this point. But a new Ryzen mobile APU came out. Now, it didn't come out in terms of, like, announced. We already knew about it. But it's actually available to purchase in laptops now. So, there was the Ryzen 2500U and the Ryzen 5 2500U and the Ryzen 7 2700U mobile APUs that came out. They got Vega graphics in them, right? That were announced. Well, you couldn't actually buy the 2700U. You could only buy the 2500U in the likes of, it was a Lenovo something or other, I believe it was. Not Lenovo. The new one's Lenovo. The 2500U was in a HP Spectre. Okay, and it performed pretty good. Battery life was lacking compared to Intel, but performance was better, especially on the GPU end, of course, right? And that was running Vega 8 graphics, right, which is 8 compute units. So the Ryzen 7 2700U is running 10 compute units on Vega and slightly higher clock speeds, 2.2 gigahertz base and 3.8 gigahertz boost. Pretty solid clock speeds, quad core. A little bit better in gaming. The Vega 8 with 8 compute units on the 2500U was kind of like, you know, we're talking like ultrabook form factor laptops, and it was capable of gaming, but some things weren't playable. Other things were, like, you know, Overwatch. Oh, you want playable frame rates for something that's competitive, like, you know, over 60 FPS. You're dropping to 720p lowest quality settings, right? This maybe will help narrow that gap a little bit more, where some of the games that wouldn't run at like 720p even, you know, are able to run at 720p now. And games like Overwatch, maybe you can push 1080p and still get over 60 FPS. So it's a nice improvement.
Yeah.
It's by no means like a super high performance gaming setup. It's not using, you know, 20 or 24 compute units like the new Intel Kaby Lake G chips that are coming out, where you can get a pretty thin and light machine that's very capable at gaming.
Yeah.
But it's more proof that Vega scales down really well, as the power consumption of it is really good and the performance of it is better than what Intel's been able to put out of integrated graphics. There's some arguing around, though, you have to pay more for it, but using like the MX series chips, I think it's the MX 150 right now, from NVIDIA along with an Intel CPU, ends up getting you better battery life and slightly better performance. And that makes sense to me simply because Intel's chips are more efficient, and NVIDIA tends to have a little bit better power management, not necessarily in efficiency in terms of like TDP and wattage, but in efficiency in terms of clock speeds dynamically changing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it doesn't surprise me. I might end up trying to get a Ryzen-based machine this summer. I'm not sure yet. I've got some other priorities, like finally maybe getting some more RAM for my system. And sleeving your cables.
You'll never get more RAM from the computer unless you want to pay.
I'm so frustrated at the
RAM is
pace.
back up to above launch prices.
What is?
RAM is, for the first time since it launched, at or above launch prices.
Yeah, DDR4 is
Yeah.
above launch price. Yeah, it's insane. It's like, oh, when this brand new tech came out 4 years ago, yeah, well, it's that same price now.
Welcome to a world.
It's so frustrating. I hope that China does find out that there was price fixing and they fix it. You know,
They're gonna fix price fixing.
they're gonna fix the price fixing because that's not cool.
So it's gonna be super fixed.
It's gonna be super fixed. I like
Well,
it. I
it'll be
like
a
it.
double negative if you fix.
Yeah, because it's like I want to go to 128 gigs of RAM on my Threadripper system because like I do editing on that, and during like transcoding my proxies for Premiere Pro into Cineform, like it's already using like 10 gigabytes or no, like 16 gigabytes of RAM for media encoder, and that's what its limits set at.
Yeah.
Right, it would use more, but it leaves X amount available to the system in order to allow me to do stuff. Or it might be 20 gigabytes that I was using yesterday or something like that. It was insane, right? Now, it leaves some available for my system to use, but it's like I could get better render times and better Premiere Pro performance if I had more RAM, because I only have 32 gigs in there right now. I don't really want to spend $1,700 to upgrade to 128 gigs of RAM.
You might as well buy that 860 Pro.
Or you can spend like $1,600 if you don't want RGB.
Yeah, but who doesn't want RGB? It's 2018. Come
Exactly.
on, get with the times.
Well, not only that, but actually, you could get like, let's say, 3,000 megahertz non-RGB RAM for like, let's say, 1550, 1600, right? 128 gig kit. Or you can get the RGB stuff with the nicer heat sinks and at 3600 megahertz clock speed for the $100 more. It's like, what are you gonna do, right?
Yeah.
But it's ridiculous. Oh man.
On the topic of RGB, though, I'm calling it right now. There's going to be a day when everything has RGB. There will be nothing in a computer that will not be RGB lit.
But what doesn't? Right now already.
Exactly, but it's all going to be more customizable.
Okay,
100%. Everything is going to be
cases
more...
have RGB built in.
Cases have RGB added to them.
Yeah,
but
they
I'm
have like
talking
LED
about,
strips
they will
built
be
in.
made of LEDs.
Maybe not that far.
That's a little too far, I think.
The whole case.
Well, let's see. So we have RGB fans, we have RGB power supplies, we have RGB graphics cards, RGB motherboards, RGB RAM. We have cases with RGB, so RGB cases in them.
You know, those are just strips usually.
A lot of them, they're integrated
RGB.
and stuff,
Like
so
my
sometimes
RGB
they're
SSDs.
built in well.
Exactly.
What?
We need RGB SSDs.
No,
and hard
HyperX
drives.
released RGB SSDs.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's RGB SSDs.
RGB hard drives.
There's no RGB hard drives, so that's the thing that's missing.
And I want the RGBs inside of the disc. Get on
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
There's
Plastic
RGB
gate.
fittings. You can get some kind of RGB adapter for some cables, I think. Let's see. RGB, I already said fans. What component are we missing here? There's no RGB sound cards.
What about optical drives?
There's no RGB optical drives either. We need
I don't
those.
know, that
We need
technically
those.
counts. There's a red laser inside of those usually.
Actually, you're right.
It's
You're right.
just red.
No, there's multiple
There's
colors in
blue.
there.
Haven't you heard of Blu-ray, you idiot?
Yeah, come on. That's actually kind of how it works.
Where's the green ray?
Yeah, we don't have a green ray.
It's
That's
not
the problem.
2019
Well,
yet.
a lot of them have
Yeah.
green lights blinking on the front of the optical drive. So, anyway, and then we have RGB monitors, RGB mice, RGB mouse pads, RGB keyboards,
Yeah, but I'm talking about like a day is
desks.
gonna come where there's
RGB desks, RGB.
a day is gonna come where there's gonna be nothing that is not RGB. So you will not be able to buy just a flat matte black of anything.
Actually, I'm okay with this though, because you just turn them off or you turn them to the color that matches your system. It's customizable.
Single part.
They're not.
Oh,
gonna-
I hate that.
I
My
know.
motherboard. It's like, here's this nice black gray motherboard with
motherboard has that exact
RGB,
same
and then a
thing.
tiny little
Is it
red
blind?
strip. No, it's not like some red on your motherboard. We're talking, it's an RGB motherboard, right? So it's like, oh, you can customize your experience. The chipset has a 2-inch long red line on it.
Oh, mine has
And-
like all the are like backlit, and so they just kind of like mirror off everything. So like my blue and white build is just gonna look terrible because it's just gonna have red, and then my green graphics card. By the way, I have a NVIDIA GTX 1080 Ti. I'm not sure if you guys were aware of that yet.
You like saying that around Ethan.
Yeah, I'm never gonna let it go.
Once I get Amper, I'm never going to let that go.
I'll still have a 1080 Ti that I paid $500 for.
It's true. It's the price that bothers me.
On your deathbed, I will
It's
tell
the
you
price
this.
that bothers me,
And
not
remember,
the fact that you have a
when
more
try
powerful
to-
card.
When you try to buy Amper, it's gonna cost like $13,000 because some miner's gonna be able.
Well,
before they even release, they will
It
already be
doesn't
sold
matter.
out.
No matter what happens,
Ethan,
you still got a 1080 Ti at this current market for that price. That's the bothersome
Remember that,
part.
everybody. Go to sleep thinking about
Ethan
that.
will probably spend more on RAM than you did on that.
You will,
I will spend more on RAM than he spent on his 1080 Ti.
and
I
mine
will,
be a much more
and I
effective
will spend more on
dollar
SSDs than he spent on his
I'm talking
1080
about just
Ti.
for your next upgrade.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No SSDs from an because
No,
I'm doing
yeah.
RAM then SSDs. Yeah. No, I'm saying separately. Yeah. Okay. So Joe had an interesting question here. So he says, "Hey guys, I know this is off topic. Totally cool. We love having off topic questions, and we don't have that much more in the doc
food
actually.
question.
No food question. Okay. We have a couple more things. Huh?
I have to do that tonight.
Yeah, I know. We're gonna wrap things up pretty quick here, but so he says he has an interview with Geek Squad on Monday as an advanced repair agent. So first off,
Congratulations,
congratulations on the interview. You seem like the kind of person that's not going to be one of the people that they hire because they don't know what they're doing. Because I have had that experience talking to them there.
But that's where the problem is going to lie, unfortunately.
That might be
which
where
I'll
one of the
explain.
problems lies if you get the job, is your coworkers might not really know what they're talking about.
Well, not that, but,
But-
I'll explain some of my theories about what will help you.
Yeah, because you've done a little bit more tech interviews with me. I actually just got a new tech job managing all the networking workstations and servers for a company. I'm not going to say what company, but I'm excited for that, right? And so I had some interviews with them and whatnot. So any advice he's asking. My advice, really, when it comes to interviews, is kind of the same advice that you'd have in most interviews. There's a few that maybe changes, a few things that I would recommend also related to tech. So first, just be confident. Go in. Don't be nervous. There's no reason to be nervous. You're more likely to get the job if you're not nervous, right? That will help. So go in with confidence. Approach it like not in an overly egotistical way, but like a little bit of a know-it-all to impress them a little bit, right? That you're confident that you know what you're doing, because that makes them feel like you do know what you're doing. And especially in a case where you do know what you're doing, you should have no reason not to be really confident about it,
Welcome
right?
to Word Job Tips.
Yes, word job tips. But the other thing, so related to tech in specific, first off, know that the person that's interviewing you probably doesn't know much about tech. So keep that in mind during the interview. They might be impressed by things that are tech related, but don't get too detailed to the point where they don't understand what you're talking about.
Yeah, pretty
Because-
much whenever somebody asks you, like, how much do you know about computers? The base of what you need to say is, I know what Microsoft Office is and I know how to use it, and that's all they want.
Right. And I can build one from scratch. That's always impressive to people.
Yeah.
If they don't know about PCs and don't know that just building a basic PC from scratch is like Legos.
Yeah.
Then they go, hey, they're like, oh, wow, that's really cool. But also one of the things I think is important is explain your enthusiasm for your interest in it, so that they understand that you're not getting this job because you want money, because there's a lot of money in the tech industry, and there's a lot of people that go into the tech industry for college and whatnot that aren't that interested in it. They're just like, oh, there's a lot of cash to be had there. I can go get a degree, get a bachelor's degree and make $120K a year. Go into it with the understanding that I want this job because I think it's cool and I want to work here because this stuff interests me, and I would love to get paid for doing what interests me and what I would do in my free time anyway.
Yeah, I think those are just general interview tips though, but like something that'll help you, especially with like what this is, the Geek Squad Advanced Repair. It's going to be a lot about, you know, just like letting people know like, hey, you know, I'm really good at troubleshooting. That's what I spend a lot of my time doing. And then a big portion of what you're going to be doing is upselling people. It's like, oh, well, my motherboard, it's not lighting up anymore. It's be like, well, we have a new one right over here.
Right,
That's going to be a lot of the thing, is just upselling. Unless you're not actually talking to customers, but just always mention, like, any sales background you have, because they'll always want to know that, and they'll always be like, oh, well, this guy has really good experience just upselling people on stuff.
And especially if they're not a tech-oriented interviewer, and they maybe aren't, you know, super into the industry, and you are going to be interfacing with customers, right? They don't want you to sound too complicated, because if they can't understand you talking about it, then customers won't be able to understand you talking about it.
Yeah.
And that's an important aspect to it. Is you can speak technical when necessary, but as a lot of people say, truly understanding something is being able to speak it in layman's terms.
Yeah.
So, anything else you want to add to that, or no?
No, I think you'll do...
I think you got it. Just be confident. That's my biggest tip for interviews, which is a big tip that most people would recommend. But just be confident.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see here. A couple more quick things. Firefox 58 got released, which is maybe making me consider try it again. So it supports something called off-main thread painting. Painting is the process of actually drawing the pixels on the display, right? And they've moved the painting process to its own thread rather than the main thread. The idea behind this is other stuff happening on other tabs or your current tab, especially your current tab in the background, aren't going to be interrupted, or other things that are happening aren't going to interrupt the smoothness of the page. So when you're scrolling, in theory, scrolling shouldn't be stuttery, because all that other stuff's being processed on a thread separate from the thread that's helping render the pixels.
Yeah.
They also announced something that people seem like is a big deal, is throttling background tab timers. And won't apply to like media-based stuff, so you won't have issues with like, you know, YouTube in the background having, you know, nothing happening.
Yeah.
But it's supposed to help RAM management as well as resource management for processors. And people seem to be making a big deal about it, which I don't understand, because Chrome 57 already does that. Chrome's done that for a while, so it's like that's a catch-up part on Firefox. The OMTP is something, as far as I know, Chrome doesn't do. So.
Yeah, it's just people getting upset about something that's being announced now. But on the topic of Firefox, and Firefox being part of Mozilla actually just recently did I think it was like $1.85 million like support towards open source things.
Yeah.
Just in general. I didn't read too much into it, I just saw it, but good on Mozilla supporting open source. Absolutely. And paying for it. So
Mozilla is they're amazing. I'm a big fan of Mozilla, and it's unfortunate that I don't use any of their products. But I had a lot of issues with Firefox Quantum, and I'm going to be making a video on that for you guys, as well as doing a write-up article about it, because I had a lot of problems with it that made me switch back to Chrome. So the last thing I wanted to mention is really quick. So Integral is a company that makes SD cards, made a micro SD XC card that's 512 gigabytes.
That's as big as they get.
It's the biggest one you can get right now.
Perfect for the Switch.
Perfect for the Switch, right? You got to get it, modify it, make it work on the Switch, so
and
that
now
you can install
run GTA.
Oh no, Switch supports the. Sorry, I was thinking 3DS for some reason, which you still have to modify. You have to switch it over to FAT32 from XFAT, or NTFS. Thank you.
Yeah.
Is that extra?
Anyways.
Okay. So anyway, it's a UHS 1 speed class, of course. But the big thing I wanted to talk about here, because it's like, okay, 512 gig SD card. Very cool. Nothing to get super excited about. Is the new V speed ratings on micro SD cards and SD cards, which are represented as VXX, as in a number there. And that number is a direct representation of the megabytes per second of what that SD card is capable of. So, you know, you've got V90, that's 90 megabytes per second. That's capable of like 8K footage.
Yeah.
Right? Now, again, bytes, not bits. So that's just something I wanted to throw out there. It's cool to see a new specification, because they're mostly being used for video at this point.
Yeah.
None of them are too slow for, you know, photos.
Yeah.
So.
What do you mean I can't transfer my photo fast enough?
Yeah, right. Also, somebody in the chat over on YouTube said, speak about Spectre and Intel. We talked about that a little bit earlier in the podcast, but also some of our previous podcasts have talked about that. We're unfortunately out of time, so I can't go into more detail on it right now.
Because Intel is on fire.
Intel's on fire. Everything else is too, but Intel more so, and Intel's patches suck. And also, if you're an industry leader, it really sucks because either you leave them vulnerable or you patch them and they reboot randomly and crash. Those are your options as an industry leader that updates workstations and stuff.
Yeah, but what are people going to do? Switch to AMD?
Like, why would they do that? Wait, people already are. Because guess what? The patches to help with AMD stuff aren't affecting reboots. They aren't causing crashes. Now, they do cause slowdowns still. But anyway, that's the last thing I wanted to mention here. And you're welcome, Joe, for the advice. Appreciate you asking the questions. Super awesome. You're always welcome to ask whatever. And thank you, everybody that watched the show. Don't forget to check the description down there. I've actually got a link that goes over to our website so you can enter an email. So we'll send out an email like an hour or two ahead of time before we do the podcast. Or if we're canceling the podcast, so you know that we're canceling the podcast. But
Which
other than that,
apparently too much.
It happens more often than it should. But we're trying to get more consistent with that. We missed one this year, unfortunately. I haven't missed a video yet this year, though.
Congratulations.
Yes. I mean, they were kind of vloggy style ones because I had to do fillers because I lost footage. But, you know.
You don't tell people it's a filler video.
No, they're not filler videos. They're still videos I do anyway.
You literally just said it was a filler video.
Sorry, they are filler videos in the
Cut the
sense
tape,
that I
cut
had
the
to do
tape,
it.
cut the tape.
Cut the tape. Oh, no, I messed up. No. All right. So thank you, everybody, for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave comments and smash that like button. And
guys, don't forget I bought a 1080 Ti for $590 and a whole computer with it. I'll be doing a video on it, benchmarks, all the fun stuff. I have a 4790. Did you seriously just unplug the computer? The camera?
No, not the camera. The computer. He's good.
I saw him unplug something. I got scared for a second.
No.
Anyways,
Yeah,
and I'll be doing benchmarks and all that fun stuff.
We'll have a copy of this uploaded to SoundCloud with a downloadable version. So if you guys want to do that, just search for WordTech. It seems to be working. The recording seems to be working this time. And I might upload a higher quality version to YouTube. So I might actually have it, not this episode necessarily, but stop archiving the footage so we can upload a 1080p 60 video.
And we can edit out the part where he said that this was a filler video.
No.
Okay, bye.
Bye. All right, guys. Have a great night. And...